as the image shows, you might think it looks really good, but in actual fact, it's not.
I bet I could cheer him up. I'll give him a balloon.
This forum that I follow is for high-end retouching, and it's something I've been on for a while now. I don't really have anything to do with it as such. It's not mine. It's just something that I follow from some tutorials I watched years and years ago. And there's a retoucher who's, I think she was the one who started it, Natalie Taffarel, who's one of, if not the top retouchers in the world, basically. And there's, I'm sure there's going to be others which are there, which specialise in certain things, but she specialises in like beauty retouching, high-end editorials, and her company and what she actually does is second to none. She's up to date with everything. She knows all the trends. She is, you know, if you really want to know how to retouch properly, she's got some great courses and also a lot of free stuff on YouTube, and you can actually join that forum on Facebook as well and get slated. Now, this doesn't appeal to most people, and I know everyone is different on how they learn how to retouch or shoot or learn photography. And for me, I quite like this. I like the unfiltered, not wrapped in cotton wool sort of attitude. I just want to be told. And that sort of, when I do tutorials and I speak to people and people ask me my opinion and stuff, I will sort of just tell them. And obviously there is an air of being cautious about how you represent that. There's, you know, you don't need to be rude and like vile as such. And I suppose some people might assume that is, but there is like, yeah, you know, are you happy with that? That's great. But in actual fact, this isn't following the standards, or, you know, where are you getting your sort of imagery from to actually come to the conclusion that this works, this retouching is good. So I really like that sort of direct conversation with people, and I love how it can be utilized. You know, there's no fat on that at all. We're sort of getting right to the point. Now, I know, like, for instance, in that comment, it's very much, right, you know, this is rubbish, blah, blah, blah. And there's no other context. And I know a lot of you will say, well, where's the constructive criticism? And what you've got to remember, now I know this is like a commercial forum, so it's obviously high-end work, and there's a lot of great people on there. But people who run these forums, when they get as big as that, and there's plenty going around, you know, people, administrators don't have the time to sort of sit there and critique and go over it with a fine-tooth comb. There's this consensus that people are already at a certain level and understand like the basics of how to use certain tools and, you know, process their images. So when you put images on like that, which a lot of people would be happy with that, and they'll look at that and they go, oh, it looks really good, you know, even if they saw it before the retouch. But in actual fact, it's very Instagram friendly, and very much of the photographers and retouchers out there and other people within the industry, and I'm sure other industries, which utilize it and say, yeah, come and buy my course, see how you retouch like this, these are the filters I use. And that's great. Like, you know, if that's what you want to do, crack on. But in reality, it is something which is frowned upon within the commercial world because it doesn't work. Now, we're talking from an aspect of like in Europe and sort of, you know, obviously Great Britain and so on, and also like America. When you go to places like China and Asia, the retouching is slightly different and what is perceived as viable. So there's difference in how they perceive and edit skin tone, for instance. So it's it's actually a lot lighter an area, and they like that sort of like pale consistency, is where over this end of, you know, this neck of the woods, it is sort of that more either natural tones or enriched tones, as in like a tan. So this is the main difference. But when you go on these places, you've got to have a good understanding already, and this applies to things like physiology, bone structure, biology, you know, the human form, muscle, especially when you're retouching people. It's a bit different if you're doing cars and things like that. That's another skill set as well. But there is this aspect of having it done to a certain standard, and it has to fit certain criterias. And this has been, you know, the sort of the standard for many years now. And yes, we have moved away from this like sort of filtered look, which it was slightly back in the day. But in actual fact, if you look at most commercial work, it's always been like this. It's always been refined to make it look as good as possible, but without taking away from like the skin, the texture, and all that. So I really like this forum. I go on there and I sometimes ask questions, sometimes I don't. You know, it's just like personally, if I'm struggling with something which is you know, you need some idea of how to retouch a certain thing, and they are brilliant. Like, they'll tell you, you know, obviously if you come from an honest place and you're sort of like, look, I'm really struggling with this, I've got this image, and you put it up there and so on, you know, you'll get a good answer, and you'll get like, oh, this is easy, do it like this, and you'll get it there and then. And that's what's key. But it's quite funny because a lot of people, you know, going back to the original comment, like, they just look at this and they just think it's horrible. Now, the thing is that depending where you are, you know, if you're reading these sort of Photography Plus magazines, that sort of thing, they're sort of, you know, it's like most things, they're a bit clickbaity, but they're there, and they're there for a reason. They're there for the amateurs and things like that. And that is, oh, someone's coming by. They're there for those people, and that's fine. But you can't then be expected, if you're that person, to go onto a forum like that, put an image up with a really bad retouch, and expect them to go, oh, there, we'll walk you through this. They haven't got the time. So in my other video, which I talked about where you're getting your references from, which is also in that comment, you know, you've got to look at current work which is viable. And it is absolutely paramount if you're going to do sort of commercial work or work for like restaurants and stuff, and you see new concept of how drinks are shot or how food is prepared and showcased and lit. So have a look. You know, we've all been there, we've all done it. I've been there, I've critiqued people in the past, and I've been a bit of a dick. But it's quite funny, and I think that everyone should look at these type of forums, which are, even if they are above like what you're currently doing, it's just worth looking at to see sort of where you actually do need to be, and deal with people which are dealing with high-end subjects on a daily basis, and their sort of thought process, because then you can see, you don't think about their cogs ticking in their head. You actually see straight away they're sort of like, no, that's rubbish, you know. And you've got to figure it out. You've got to use your noggin a bit, you know. You've gone in there, you've got to have a bit of initiative, and that's it really. But it's quite interesting. I just thought, like, yeah, I'll just hop on here today and do this. I love that sort of stuff, and that's me though. I'm a bit anal, but anyway, I'm having my breakfast now, and I've got stuff to do. I've got to like tidy the house and things. So I will see you soon. Remember, check my affiliate links below, and like and subscribe. Message your comments as well. Put comments about how you feel about sort of critique and where you get it from. Does it inspire you? Does it work for you? What works for you? Is it practical? Is it tutorials? Is it YouTube? Is it just being told, like, you know, in sort of a PDF format? I'd love to know. I answer all my comments as usual, and I will see you soon.